So all of my render passes have finished, and I'm going to open up the compositor so that I can begin to layer everything together. I'm going to go into my passes menu and I'm going to pull in all of my passes. So I've got 7 passes, and each pass has isolated a specific attribute. You'll notice that I have the lighting effects on my character. On my building, of course, it's just a static image. I've got the terrain as a static image as well. And if I move forward through the casings are rendered on their own level, as well as the tracer fire. And finally, the muzzle flash. So if I play the muzzle flash through, I'm getting this consistent kind of blasting. Alright, so let's put it all together. I'm going to start off by putting my 2 background elements together, and I'm going to composite them using an over operator. So in my composites preset menu, I'm going to look under the composites folder tab and select an over node and middle click to drop it into my graph. I'm going to actually place the terrain pass as my background layer, so on the left side of the over node, and the background building pass into the foreground. Okay, so the next thing I want to composite in is the Malcore character and the various effects. So we can put the shadow pass on last. If you look at the shadow pass, everything's just going to layer in on top at the very end. So when it comes to the body, we're going to composite the body with the various flashes. If we look at the muzzle flash, we have an alpha for it. If we look at the tracer pass, we have an alpha for that, and the same thing goes for our casings. So we can use overs to composite them all together. I think what I'll do is put the Malcore body pass over the casings. So I get that. And then I'll put the muzzle flash and laser tracers over top of that. So let's put the muzzle flash on top of the tracers. So let's go and use another over. I'll plug the result of Malcore and casing into the background and the tracers into the foreground. Okay, so that's actually looking pretty good there. And then we'll plug the muzzle flash in over top of all of that. Now, I could composite it over initially, and then maybe screen it back over top of itself. So if I was to take the same pass and then perhaps do another math composite over itself as another layer, I could control the opacity of that overlay, or in this case it might not even make any difference at all. So let's actually just see what we have. We don't want it to really darken things, although that's actually looking really cool. If I add to the effect, it doesn't really seem to do too much, so we'll ignore that particular operator. I'm just going to right click to delete it. So actually, speaking of math compositing, next we have to kind of plug the shadows into everything. So I've got 2 branches to my tree here, and I'm going to bring them all together, of course, by using another over. So this now becomes my background, and this becomes my foreground element. Of course, everything has an alpha. So I'll use another over node and middle click to drop it in, connect the background layer, connect the foreground layer. So now I've got context for my shooting. And finally I'll drop in the shadow pass. Now the shadow pass needs to be inverted to make shadows black, so I'll use a math composite node. So I'll do a math composite, drop it in, and I'll invert my shadow pass. So I'll look under my color adjust category of nodes and bring in an invert by selecting it and middle clicking it. So first of all, invert my shadow pass to get that. And we want to multiply our shadow area over top of our color. So anywhere our color is white, we retain our original background color, and anywhere our color is black, we darken or multiply by the value. So we don't quite have black here. It's actually kind of a medium gray. So we're going to have some shadows that we might want to control with an intensity node, but I'll control it something like this. So the shadows inverted go into my foreground, everything else into my background. I'll edit the math composite, and we'll set the mode to multiply image A times B. So now we get everything comping in really nicely. Alright, let's continue on.